Council of Governors to do 4 issues outlined. This motion will resume its debate that was interrupted on the 8th of Tuesday, November the year 2022. It is a motion that is moved by nominated Senator Honorable Hamida Kibwana. According to the mover of this motion is that aware that according to the World Health Organization, globally 10% of pregnant women and 13% of women who have just given birth experience a mental condition referred to as perinatal depression, which is higher in developing countries with 15.6% during pregnancy and 19.8% after childbirth. The mover also indicates that aware that women who go through stillbirth and those that lose their children during delivery are taken to the general maternity ward, where other mothers with healthy babies are recovering, causing them mental anguish and adversely impacting their mental health. The mover also notes that integrating mental health care into primary health care settings requires training in psychiatric care and providing consulting support to primary care providers, considering that there are not enough mental health care providers to meet the current and growing need for mental health services. In this motion also, the mover indicates that appreciating that the Health Act under Section 6(1)(b) provides that every person has a right to reproductive health care, which includes the right of access to appropriate healthcare services that will enable mothers go safely through pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period, which should include the integration of mental health in perinatal care as recommended by the National Mental Health Task Force in its Mental Health and Well-being Towards Happiness and National Prosperity. It is on this background that the mover has called upon the House to urge the Ministry of Health in collaboration with the Council of Governors to establish a number of issues, the 4 areas that the House will be seeking to urge the Ministry of Health in collaboration with the Council of Governors in this particular motion to undertake. Also lined up for consideration in the House this afternoon, a number of members, including the Senator for Kisumu, the nominated Senator Crystal Asige, and nominated Senator Hamida Kibwana, will be making statements, this being pursuant to Standing Order 53(1). The Senator for Kisumu County, Honorable Senator Professor Tom Ojienda, will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding the statement of rice farming in Kisumu County. Nominated Senator Crystal Asige will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Education concerning safety of learners in special needs education institutions. Well, at the entrance of the Senate chambers, the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, has stepped into the chambers. He will be presiding over this afternoon sitting. I will now hand you over for this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. My name is Kamche Menza. Good afternoon.
Let's pray. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, twakusihi ututazame kwa neema nyingi na baraka sisi watumishi wako ambao tumeridhika kutuita kwa nyadhifa za uongozi katika jamhuri hii yetu. Tukuomba utuajalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi hii yetu, na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Clerk. Clerk, can you determine if you have quorum, please? Kindly ring the division bell.
Well, Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, has just directed that the quorum bell be rung, of course, to allow the House attain the requisite number that will enable the House start its business. Before the House starts its business, according to the standing orders, the House has to achieve its quorum, the requisite number to enable business to kick off as normal or as usual. So for the next 10 minutes, if the quorum will not have been achieved, or perhaps even before the lapse of the 10 minutes, if the quorum is achieved, then the Speaker will order that the business of the day start. And as you can see, members are walking into the House for this afternoon sitting. It is a sitting that starts at 2:30, and members are slowly trickling into the chambers, of course, to enable the House attain its requisite number to start the business as indicated in the standing orders for the commencement of the House sitting or plenary sitting. The nominated Senator Hamida Kibwana, will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget concerning austerity measures imposed by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, on developing countries, including Kenya. The nominated Senator, Honorable Senator Hamida Kibwana, is part of two other senators who will be seeking statement this afternoon, of course, pursuant to Standing Order 53-1. There is the Senator for Kisumu County, Honorable Professor Tom Ojenda, who will be seeking a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding the state of rice farming in Kisumu County. Also nominated Senator. Well, the quorum has been achieved. I will now hand you over.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, 10th November 2022, an annual report on the state of judiciary and administration of justice for 2021-2022. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Makueni County Fruit Development and Marketing Authority for the year ended 30th June 2018. Makueni Fruit Development and Marketing Authority for the year ended 30th June 2019. Project implemented in Muka Ward of Makueni County Government for financial year 2018-2019. Report of the Auditor General for the financial year ended 30th June 2019 on the financial statements of Wajir County Disaster Management Fund, Wajir County Bursary Fund, Samburu County Executive Staff Mortgage Scheme Fund, Nyeri County Elimu Fund, County Government of Kisumu Bursary Fund, Siaya County Alcoholic Drinks and Control Fund. Reports of the Auditor General for the year ended 30th June 2020 on the financial statements of Wajir County Bursary Fund, Wajir County Climate Change Fund, Wajir County Disaster Management Fund, Kenya Urban Support Program, Kisii Municipality, Kisii County COVID-19 Emergency Fund, Kisii County Emergency Fund, Nairobi City County Alcoholic Drinks and Control and Licensing Board, Siaya County Alcoholic Drinks Control and Licensing Board, Special Municipality of Mwatate Fund Board, Homa Bay Municipal Board, County Assembly of Nyeri Car Loan and Mortgage Staff Scheme Fund, Makueni County Fruit Development and Marketing Authority. Reports of the Auditor General for the year ended 30 June 2021 on the financial statements of Wajir County Climate Change Fund, Wajir County Disaster Management Fund, Wajir County Bursary Fund, Wajir Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Kerisho County Executive Staff Scheme Mortgage Fund, Kerisho County Alcoholic Drinks Fund, Mary County Alcoholic Drinks and Control Board, Sierra County Alcoholic Drinks Control Fund, Trans Nzoia County Youth and Women Development Fund, Tavevo Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Special Municipality of Mwatate Fund Board, Municipality of Malindi, Vihiga County Assembly Members and Staff Mortgage and Carlon Skin Fund, Vihiga County Trade and Enterprise Fund, Matasi Water Services Limited, Kerisho Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisumu County Trade Fund, Kisumu County Car and Mortgage Scheme Fund, Kisumu County Youth, Women and People Disability Fund. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon a visiting delegation of clergy from Nyandarua County who are in the Senate on a courtesy call. Honorable Senators, I request the delegation to stand so that they may be acknowledged in the Senate tradition. There they are. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome and wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. Again, Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon a visiting delegation of businessmen from India and the Democratic Republic of Congo who are in the Senate on a courtesy call. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome and wish them a fruitful visit. Thank you. I will allow the Senator for Nyandarua to give welcoming remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is the leader majority to ask me to be coming to the dispatch box. I don't know why he is changing his hat today. But I also would want to join my colleagues, the senators, and yourself in welcoming the clergy who are here from Nyandarua. They had come to pray with me. With them is my own spiritual leader, Bishop Dr. Joseph Macharia, who is the Bishop of AIC Church, in which I'm an elder, albeit with caveats. I'm an elder of the AIC Church. And they are here with a delegation of bishops from Nyandarua. At the Speaker's Gallery, we have the Bishop Stephen Kafora, the Bishop of the ACK Diocese of Nyahururu. We have Bishop Ayub Kevodo, the AIPC Nyandarua, the Bishop. We have Sheikh Sarim Waweru from the Okarao Mosque. And we have Bishop Dr. Gadari, who is the Bishop of Full Gospel Church. I would wish to state this, Mr. Speaker. My being here, I really would wish and would dare say, had it not been the hand of God, I would not be a senator today. These men of God who are the Speaker's Gallery, they have worked with me this very difficult journey, and I thank them very much. And I also ask, as they pray for me and as they pray for the country, as they pray for the President and as they pray for all of us, I would wish to say that we really take them with so much gratitude that even after praying for us to office, because I was really prayed for to office, these men of God that you are seeing here, they fasted, they prayed, they were with me. was running against very difficult competitors, and Mr. Speaker, you know. I always tell you that having ran against a cabinet minister who was a cabinet minister when I was born, it looked impossible. It looked insurmountable. It looked, in the eyes of an ordinary man, it never looked like I would become a senator. But these men of God believed in me. They prayed for me. They have been with me, and they are supporting. The only thing that I would want to ask from them is that as I also serve the people of Nyandarua as their senator, I would ask that they also keep me in their prayers. They keep praying for our county. They keep praying for the leadership of Nyandarua. They keep praying for the leadership of Kenya, and they keep praying for the President of the Republic of Kenya. Some of us, Mr. Speaker, the reason why some of us think that we are overdoing it. We are not overdoing it. We are here because of grace. We are here because God made us come here. It's not that the rest are not prayerful, but ours is a more difficult and torrid journey. So I thank them very much, and I thank you, Mr. Speaker, even for allowing them to be here, because they prayed that I come here. I wanted them to come and see where they brought me. Thank you very much.
Senator Hamida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to extend this warm welcome to our friends and investors who have come to Kenya, and they decided to pay a courtesy call to this Senate. I want to welcome them. Kenya is of course a beautiful country, and in terms of investment, they are all welcome to invest in different sectors. We have senators from different counties, and also I also wish to extend to them, if they can travel to different counties also to explore on different investment. I welcome them, and I tell them it's a free country, and we welcome all kind of investors as long as the kind of business is genuine and legit. Welcome to Kenya. Thank you.
Next order, please.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
The Honorable Senator Tom Ogenda. The Honorable Senator Crystal Asige.
It's on. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding safety of learners in special needs education institutions. In the statement, the committee should 1. State the safety measures put in place in education institutions for children with special needs to ensure the safety of learners with disabilities from such hazards such as fires, terrorist attacks, and natural calamities. 2. Elucidate on whether staff working in special needs education institutions have undergone emergency response training to serve as first responders in the event of an emergency in the said institutions. 3. Explain whether personnel of emergency response agencies such as paramedics, police, firefighters, the Kenya Defense Forces, and other rescue and emergency service providers are, in their training, sensitized on how to handle persons with disabilities in emergency situations. 4. describe the kind of training, if any, that children with disabilities in special needs education institutions are taken through to aid them in responding to emergency situations. And finally, Mr. Speaker, explain whether parents and caregivers of children with disabilities are taken through any form of training on handling of such children in the event of emergencies, stating how often all the above such trainings are provided for. Mr. Speaker, if I can just give a brief genesis of this statement. Not many people know this, but on the 13th of October 2022 in Uganda, there is a special education school named Salama School for the Blind, for the visually impaired. And I'm sorry, I've got a tear coming out of my eye as I say this, because that school burnt down on the 13th, just after midnight last month. And there were 11 children with visual impairment that died that night, and 6 were very badly injured. This was caused by an alleged arson attack in the middle of the night in this boarding school, where 11 children, who I see myself in, Mr. Speaker, burnt to death in the middle of the night. And of course, because of their visual impairment or their blindness, I cannot emphasize enough how difficult I imagine that to have been for them, excruciating at that. If senators in this room and people listening to me this afternoon, can you just close their eyes for 10 seconds and imagine that this place was engulfed in flames, Mr. Speaker, right now? What would you do, especially if the person to your left and to your right is also blind and visually impaired? Who would you then reach out your hand to save you and guide you out into safety? Mr. Speaker, these children in Uganda, 11 of them, burnt so badly beyond recognition that their parents had to wait 3 weeks after this fire in order to get their remains. It just happened a week ago, Mr. Speaker. And that, of course, led me to think, what is Kenya doing to prevent such a situation? Instead of being reactive, how proactive are our emergency services in such situations specific to people with disabilities and children with disabilities, Mr. Speaker? I hope that none of us, for example, in Thika's School for the Blind, Likoni School for the Blind, have to say or read this story in the news at all in Kenya. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this being a house of reflection.
Senator Onyonka.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to emphasize that after listening to Madam Asige raise the issue about us as leaders being sensitive to people with visual disability and impairment, I think it makes sense for the committee responsible, Mr. Speaker, to take this matter seriously, and so that we can actually begin to look at the standardization of how our buildings are designed, and if possible, Mr. Speaker, where certain windows and doors are placed so that such people can have easy access in case there is any emergency. I think it's a very good issue. Thank you, sir.
Senator Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to, just like our colleague who's just spoken, the good Senator for Kisii, join him as well in agreeing with Senator Crystal on the need for us as a leadership to be sensitive to children with special needs. Listening to her, Mr. Speaker, it struck me how on many occasions because life is normal for you, imagine that that is how it is for everyone. And perhaps the special needs children in many institutions across our counties, that on many occasions we don't sit back to reflect and consider on in which way are they being considered in the buildings that are being done and the county programs, Mr. Speaker. Part of the articles of devolution and that which it intended to achieve, Mr. Speaker, if you read our constitution, is to bring service closer to the people and to give people the chance to self-govern away from here in Nairobi. I want to believe, Mr. Speaker, that the Committee on Education, as they consider this statement, perhaps may want to even go a step earlier and consider, because many of the billions of shillings that we devolve to the counties each year are used to build ECD classrooms. How many of those ECD classrooms, Mr. Speaker, are built in a manner conducive to children with special needs? And what is the ratio as well? Because there are those who can not, because of the nature of they are ably gifted, they are gifted differently, Mr. Speaker, they are not able to attend normal schools with the other children. How many such facilities are being developed? I know the Senator for Homa Bay, I believe, Senator Moses Kajwang, has a bill before this House that was read the first time early this week on vocational training centers. Perhaps as we consider that, we must also think about it, because it's providing the legislative framework for counties to develop vocational training centers. As we do that, we may want also to consider, perhaps during a committee of the whole, how those centers can either additionally have classrooms that are smart enough to have students that are gifted differently, or build actually institutions all together, because these special skills that you're providing to the young people who maybe don't join colleges and universities, I believe this special lot of young children deserve to be given also that kind of an opportunity. And I believe when Senator Moses Kajwang comes back, or the committee that is considering this bill comes back with that report, this is one thing, together with our colleague Senator Crystal, we should look out for. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Shakil Abdallah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice on what our VIP has said regarding the impaired people. Mr. Speaker, I remember very well there was a law which was passed that any building in this country, any school, any institution, that they should be taking care of the PWDs. And that law was reversed, Mr. Speaker. I think it's high time we look into that law and see, the committee should actually look into that law and see how best they can revert it back and make sure and enforce it, so that all the buildings, all the schools, all the institutions and shopping centers, they should be able to cater for the PWDs, so that we avoid such scenarios in future, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Senator Moma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the statement by Senator Asige. Mr. Speaker, I happen to be a parent of a child with a disability, a child with a severe disability. And I'd like to confirm that children with disability have difficulties being included in the education in this country. Mr. Speaker, for children with severe disabilities, it's even worse. Parents have had to come together, sometimes come up with their own institutions, because we don't have public institutions to provide for them. The missionaries and private actors, including non-state actors, NGOs, have built more schools for persons with disabilities than our own government has done. Mr. Speaker, we actually have a law in this country, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which we ratified as Kenya. In fact, we participated in the development of that law. Kenya was one of the countries that was at the forefront in shaping that convention. And Mr. Speaker, that convention provides for inclusive education, which means that the design of the education, pedagogy, the teaching, the training of teachers, the provision of the infrastructure in the schools, and also the infrastructure in public spaces is supposed to be inclusive. But Mr. Speaker, we have failed to implement inclusive provisions in regard to persons with disability. I'd like to thank Senator Sige and to urge that committee, together with the committee that is in charge of the implementation of treaties and agreements, to use the law that we have, which is very good, the treaties, and hold accountable all those, both the ministry and even the county governments, because both have some infrastructure of sort that they develop that is supposed to be accessed by the public. I raise to support. Thank you very much.
Senator Murango.
Asante sana mstahiki Spika kwa kunipa nafasi hii kuchangia katika kauli ambayo imetolewa na Senator Sige. Ya kwanza ningesema kwamba ningetaka kuunga mkono kauli iliyotolewa na kiongozi wa wengi katika bunge la Seneti, kwa sababu sheria nyingi zinatungwa na zile zinafaa kutungwa ndio ziweze kutumika. Tukiangalia sana wahandisi wengi ambao wanakuja kupitisha zile plans ambazo zinatumika katika ujenzi majumba mengi katika county, hawatilii maanani ya kwamba wanafaa kupeana nafasi ama kuzingatia sheria ili wale watu ambao wana uwezo wa kuingia katika zile majumba waweze kuingia. Nasema hivyo kwa sababu ukienda leo kuna zile plans ambazo zitapitishwa leo na wahandisi katika county kwa majumba ambayo itajengwa, lakini hasitakuwa na njia mwafaka ambazo watu walio na ulemavu wanaweza kuingia katika nyumba zile. Lakini tukiendelea kutunga sheria ambazo hazitiliwi maanani, hakuna kitu tambadilisha katika nchi hii. Kwa hivyo ningesema ya kwamba tunapotunga sheria na zile zilizoko za kusema kwamba majumba yajengwe yakiwa na nafasi nzuri ya usafiri sana kwa watu ambao wako na ulemavu zizingatiwe vilivyo, na sisi kama seneta ambao tunaangalia ama sisi ndio tunaangalia counties tuweze kufuata kwamba zile sheria zinatumika. Asante sana mstahiki Speaker.
Senator Wambua.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also comment on the statement by our sister, Senator Asige. Mr. Speaker, I've listened to my colleagues talk about laws and provisions of the Constitution, international treaties that bind us as a nation in respect of providing care to our children. Mr. Speaker, it should come out naturally that any government, any human being must be driven not by law, but even by conscience to provide care for our children with disability. In our Constitution, the Speaker, Article 43(3), it says that the state shall provide appropriate social security to persons who are unable to support themselves and their dependents. And this is the basis of all laws on the protection of children and persons living with disability. The government has a duty of care, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that these children, who are actually our children, have access to education, access to health care, access to free movement, Mr. Speaker. I have visited a number of schools in my county for children with special needs. And Mr. Speaker, even as we talk about these children, there will be need for us also to address the issue of the caregivers, those persons who are charged with the responsibility of taking care of these children. They are also given an environment that is conducive to provide that care in the first place. Mr. Speaker, I thank Senator Sige for being at the forefront to fight for persons living with disability and not leaving any child behind. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tobiko.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I also arise to support the statement by the good Senator VIP, Senator Sige, that all Kenyans whether physically challenged or, able-bodied persons, the right to access facilities, services, as provided by government and should be provided by government. Mr. Speaker, there are parents who are at home with their children because their children cannot access good education or cannot access facilities that will enable those children to get education, Mr. Speaker. And this particularly affects mothers. It affects the female caregivers, Mr. Speaker. In most instances, Mr. Speaker, you find situations even where, those ladies with physically challenged children, most of the times they are abandoned by their spouses and they are left to take care of these children, Mr. Speaker. And when it comes to the national level and institutions, Mr. Speaker, we must try as a country to level the ground for every Kenyan, that every Kenyan has a chance, every Kenyan is enabled to access services, to access opportunities, to access buildings, to access schools, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think it is high time even the parents who take care of the physically challenged children are also given a stipend to take care of these children on behalf of the government of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I just arise to say, Senator Sigate, this is a noble cause, the one you're following, and it's good because you have not, let the disability to affect your achievement or self-actualization, my sister. And because of that, I hope those at home are getting a good example and taking you as a role model, that nothing should stop them from achieving what they must achieve as God gives them an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Senator Majayo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, nataka kumpatia kongole dada yetu Crystal Asige kwa hii taarifa. Kitu ni kwamba Bwana Spika, mambo ya ulemavu ni mambo ya kusikitisha sana. Hakuna familia katika Kenya ama jamii ama marafiki ambao hawajaona familia ama kukumbwa na janga hili la kuwa na mtoto ama watoto ambao ni walemavu katika familia. Mimi nikiwa mmoja wao, tuko na mmoja ambaye pia hali yake pia ni hali ya ulemavu na hali ya kusikitisha. Bwana Spika, nataka kusema tu ya kwamba ingekuwa vyema pia kufikiria kuongeza namba ya walimu ambao wanaweza kuwafundisha watoto ambao ni walemavu. Bwana Spika, ingekuwa muhimu pia kuona ya kwamba usalama wao wakati wa hatari ikitokea, kama saa nyingine unajua watoto hawawezi kutembea, kunaweza kuwa na hatari kama ya moto, unaweza kuwa na hatari kama ya nyumba kuanguka ama mafuriko, ili wao wanaweza kuwa na haraka sana ya usaidizi, kuona ya kwamba madhara kama yale hayatawapata watoto hawa. Kitu cha mwisho Bwana Spika, nataka kutoa kongole kubwa sana kwa rafiki yangu mmoja huko Mombasa, yule ambaye ndio mwenye ile tunaita Mombasa Cement. Mombasa Cement iko katika kaunti yangu ya Kilifi na ni kampuni ya kutengeza simiti, na mwenye hiyo kampuni anaitwa Hasu. Yule Hasu, mimi sijaona binadamu kama huyo, binadamu ambaye katika Kenya nzima yeye amejitokeza kwa nguvu zake zote kuona ya kwamba atasaidia watoto walemavu. Ako na skuli kubwa sana inaitwa Shenandan, iko pale ndani ya Mtwapa, iko na watoto walemavu zaidi ya 1000, watoto ambao wako na ulemavu ambao hawawezi kuongea, watoto ambao hawawezi kutembea, watoto ambao hawasikii, watoto ambao pia hawawezi kuona, na tofauti za ulemavu wa aina yote yeye yako nao. Na hao watoto ambao hawapungui chini ya 1000, yeye anawaangalia kwa kila hali na mali. Hata elimu yao wakiwa wanafundishwa, wale walimu walioko pale, yeye mwenyewe anatumia pesa yake kupeana hiyo pesa, kuona ya kwamba wale watoto wamepata elimu. Wale wasioona wanafundishwa na zile zinaitwa kama dadangu Kristo, na wale wasiosikia pia wanafundishwa kivyao, na wale wasioweza pia kutembea lakini wanaweza kuwa na uwezo wa kuona na kusikia, wanapewa mafunzo pale pale kwenye ile skuli. Ni skuli ya ajabu, na mimi naona hiyo skuli, Bwana Spika, huyo mwenye hiyo skuli angezaidika na kutambuliwa ya kwamba yeye ni mtu mmoja ambaye mimi naona kwa Mwenyezi Mungu amweke, aweze kumpatia maisha marefu, aendelee kusaidia hawa watoto ambao ni walemavu. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi tu langu la mwisho ni kwamba nataka watu wale ambao wanajiweza kokote waliko nchini waige mfano wa ASU yule wa Mombasa Cement, kuona ya kwamba ikiwa wewe uko na uwezo na uko na pesa, sio sisi tuseme wewe una pesa, wewe ni tajiri, na wewe hakuna hata mtoto mmoja wa mlemavu unamsomesha ama unamfanyia usaidizi wa aina yoyote. Asante Bwana Spika.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity that you have given me to say something about the statement by Senator Asige, and I think I want to start by thanking her for making this a very important statement. And Mr. Speaker, as the chair of Education Committee in this House, Mr. Speaker, I feel I need to make some 2 comments. Mr. Speaker, the issue of children with special needs is a very serious matter, because in most of the traditions and cultures of our people, sometimes parents are forced to hide these children at home. And that is why it is very important that when we come to institutions of learning, that we make enough provisions for these learners, Mr. Speaker. I think I want to thank the government, because through Kenya Institute of Special Education, KISE, Mr. Speaker, teachers, especially at the primary school level, have been undertaking further training in special needs education, Mr. Speaker. Most institutions, primary schools, have centers for special needs learners, Mr. Speaker. And I think it is important because sometimes a learner or a parent will not maybe fully accept that their children need special needs. I think, Mr. Speaker, it is mandatory. It would be very important that teachers be trained, even those that are not exactly trained in special needs, but there be a unit to be taught in teacher training colleges, that every teacher is at least empowered in dealing with a special needs kid, Mr. Speaker, because some of these children, like I've said, will be hidden at home, will come to school as normal kids, but they have some special needs, Mr. Speaker. And I think that is why every teacher should be taught, should do at least one unit in special needs education. Mr. Speaker, those especially that have issues with their mental health, Mr. Speaker, could be taken advantage of. And I think it is important that we have some laws protecting these children against people that may want to take advantage of them, Mr. Speaker. Every educational institution or every center, Mr. Speaker, should make sure that the buildings are friendly. Every building made, and I think, Mr. Speaker, as approval of buildings is being made, I think there should be a requirement that every building that is being put up in an educational institution should be friendly, Mr. Speaker, to all the learners with special needs. And I think it is a high time that we started looking at learners with special needs as our children and giving them the appropriate care that they need. And I think I want to support, and I think I want to thank again Senator Asige for that, and I think that is very progressive. Mr. Speaker, I support anything and everything that would be there for our learners with disability and those that have special needs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kavindu.
Bwana Spika, wacha nikushukuru kwa kunipa fursa hii ya kuweza kuchangia kwa statement hii ya Senator Asige. Bwana Spika, watoto wanaoishi na ulemavu, hata si watoto tu peke yao, hata watu wazima wanaoishi na ulemavu wako na shida nyingi sana, especially wanaposafiri. Usafiri hauko sawa kabisa kwao, ni kwa maana wanatembea na wanasafiri kwa njia ngumu sana, especially wale wanaosukumwa na wheelbarrows na wheelchairs. Wanapata matatizo mengi sana wanapoenda. Bwana Spika, nasema ni lazima amri tolewe ili wakaweze kulindwa, na wanapoenda shuleni pia. Bwana Spika, wanapata matatizo mengi. Wanapata matatizo mengi kwa communication, especially wale ambao hawasikii, na walimu hawezi kufunza na sign language ili ambao wanaweza kufahamu. Bwana Spika, wanapata shida nyingi sana hata kwa vyakula, kwa maana wengi wamezaliwa kwenye familia ambazo hazijiwezi kabisa, na kwa hivyo unapata ule mzazi wa kike pale nyumbani hawezi kuondoka, maana akiondoka ule mtoto atabakia pale bila mtu, alafu anaweza pia kubakwa akiwa katika hali hiyo. Kwa hivyo unapata mama mara nyingi hawezi kutoka kwenda kutafutia ule mtoto chakula. Kwa hivyo mama na watoto pia wanapata shida kwa kukosa hata kitu ambacho wanaweza kula. Bwana Spika, mimi ningeomba serikali hii iangalie sana zaidi zile familia ambazo ziko na watoto walemavu, na waone hali zao vile ziko za kimapato, ili wakaweze kuwasaidia, wakaweze kuona jinsi wanaweza kuwapa nafasi ya kujipatia chakula na hata kuweza kuwaendelesha kwenye masomo. Wanapata shida hata kwenye matibabu. Wanapogonjeka, mama inabidi achukue mtoto na kumbeba na kumpeleka hospitalini. Wazazi wengine hawana uwezo hata wa kukomboa gari ama hata kupanda zile bodaboda. Unapata ni shida, utapata mama amebeba mgongoni mtoto mzito zaidi na anambeba tu kwa sababu ni mtoto wake. Nashukuru sana Senator Azike kwa ajili ya mjadala ambao umeleta mahali hapa, and I hope ukipelekwa kwenye ile kamiti ambayo inastahili watachukua hatua na pia serikali itachukua hatua. Asante Bwana Speaker kwa kunipa nafasi hii na support.
Senator Roba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes back, I was invited, as a governor, to participate in an event that was for persons living with disability in Isiolo. And we were requested to do competition on the wheelchair that was provided by everybody. Only then I had realized the level of difficulty that people go through. In my life, I've seen people who were okay yesterday and completely disabled today. And this is at the level of adults. So disability is an issue that can happen to anybody. And for us as a house to be able to think about the welfare of persons living with disability from children to adults and be able to legislate in favor of those is something that the line between disability and wellness is very thin. You can attend your Senate session today, and by this evening, you're disabled. And this is the absolute reality of what happens in our life. And for those of us that are well and have the opportunity to be in this Senate, to be able to legislate, help the cause of that persons living with disability, it is great opportunity. And for our Senator Sige, thank you very much for being extremely consistent. You can bank on our support because you have close visibility on the issues affecting persons with disability. We're very lucky to have you in this Senate. And we will support you with everything we've got, including fast-tracking legislation that you're going to propose, as well as us proposing for the sake of making sure the welfare of persons living with disability, include from children to adults, is taken care of. I rise to support. Thank you.
Senator Faki.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia maombi ya taarifa iliyowasilishwa na Senator Maalumu Senator Kristo Lasigi. Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono taarifa hii ambayo Mheshimiwa Asigi ameileta, kwa sababu mambo yanayoangaziwa katika taarifa hii ni mambo ya kimsingi kabisa. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimebahatika kuwa mwanachama klabu ya Rotary Club of Mombasa, na tunafanya kila baada ya wiki mbili huwa tunakwenda kulisha watoto walemavu katika shule ya Proceedings. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiona wale watoto wanavyoishi, lazima utajua kwamba ipo haja kubwa ya kuweza kuwasaidia ili waweze kuona maisha yao yamekuwa kidogo na nafuu. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati tunapokwenda kuwalisha shule ile ya Proceedings ya watoto walemavu ina walimu ambao hawatoshi ile idadi ya wanafunzi ambao wako pale. Kwa hivyo tukifika sisi, mbali na kupeleka chakula, sisi wenyewe pia huingia katika shughuli za kuwalisha wale watoto ili tuone kwamba kila mtoto anaweza kupata chakula cha kutosha. Mheshimiwa Spika, madarasa yaliyojengwa yamejengwa madarasa ya kawaida kiasi ambacho mtoto mlemavu hawezi kuyafikia. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna sehemu zingine ambazo hata mahali ambapo anakwenda kujisaidia, Mheshimiwa Spika, hayajatengezwa kwa kiwango ambacho kinatilia maanani ulemavu wa mtoto yule. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hivyo haya masuala yaliyozungumziwa hapa, Mheshimiwa Spika, yatasaidia pakubwa kuhakikisha kwamba wanafunzi wanaosoma, wale ambao wana ulemavu, wanakuwa na nafasi sawa na wale wanafunzi wengine katika shule zao. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa pia kusema kwamba Mheshimiwa Hasu wa Mombasa Cement ametoa mchango mkubwa kwa watoto walemavu, kwa sababu amejenga shule ambao shule ile ndio kubwa kabisa katika bara la Afrika, ya kusaidia watoto ambao ni walemavu, na watoto wale wako karibu 1500 na wanakula pale, wanalala pale, na wengine ni wale ambao wana ulemavu wanaitwa microcephalus. Vichwa vyao ukiangalia kichwa chake ni kidogo kuliko kile kichwa cha mtoto wa kawaida, tofauti na wale ambao wana vichwa vikubwa wanaitwa hydrocephalus kwa Kiingereza. Sijui kwa Kiswahili wanaitwa nini. Mheshimiwa Spika, utaweza kutusaidia hapo. Lakini vichwa vyao ni vidogo, wanaitwa microcephalus, na ukiwaona mwenyewe utajua kwamba Mwenyezi Mungu ni bora wa kuumba, na ameumba amtakaye kwa njia ambayo ameona yeye kuwa ni sawa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, walemavu kama hawa na wote wako katika shule ya Mheshimiwa Hasu, na pale wanapata kila kitu. Kwa hivyo ni swala ambalo hata serikali nafikiri hawajafikiria swala kama hilo, kwamba waweze kusaidia watoto kama hao. Na nafikiri watoto wale hawako katika sehemu za pwani pekee yake, wako katika sehemu Kenya nzima kwa jumla. Kwa hivyo ikiwa kuna wazazi ambao wana watoto walemavu kama hao, ni bora waweze kuwaleta ili waweze kusomeshwa. Mwisho Mheshimiwa Spika, ni pia wakati hao wanapokuwa, inakuwa vigumu wao kupata cheti cha kuonesha kwamba yeye ni mlemavu. Lazima alipe shilingi 1500 katika hospitali zetu ambazo ni hospitali za county, ili aweze kupata cheti cha kuonesha kwamba ni mlemavu, ndio aweze kupata zile benefit nyingine ama zile marupurupu ama fadhila nyingine za kuonesha kwamba yeye ni mlemavu. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, haya yote yanalumbikizwa kwa wale ambao katika jamii sisi tunatakana tuwasaidie zaidi kuliko tunavyotusaidia sisi wenyewe. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono taarifa hii. Asante.
Senator Mandago.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the statement of Senator Sike on the safety of children with disability, Mr. Speaker, in our learning institution. And Mr. Speaker, the children with different disabilities, Mr. Speaker, in this country, their safety is not only limited to the physical security or access to institutions of learning, but Mr. Speaker, the safety should also include the devices, the assistive devices they are using, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in this country, we can comfortably say we've let down the population with disability, Mr. Speaker. And I say that, Mr. Speaker, because in this country, we have only one assessment center, which is KISE, Mr. Speaker. And for you to be able to assist a person with disability, Mr. Speaker, with the correct assistive devices, Mr. Speaker, there is need to assess that child or person, Mr. Speaker, so that you can prescribe the correct assistive device, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we want these children to be safe, we need, Mr. Speaker, to improve on the assessment centers in this country, Mr. Speaker. There is need to expand the assessment facilities in this country, Mr. Speaker, so that all Kenyans should not be traveling to KISE. Even in that KISE, Mr. Speaker, we have shortage of experts who can do proper assessment of the children with various disabilities, Mr. Speaker, so that proper correctional and assistive devices can be given, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, looking at the contribution of Senator Asike in this House, Mr. Speaker, on matters disability, I urge this minority whip to reconsider returning Senator Asike, Mr. Speaker, to the correct committee so that our expertise can help this House, Mr. Speaker, and the whole population of disabled persons in this country, Mr. Speaker, get better services in terms of accessing buildings and many other things. Mr. Speaker, you realize safety is about the buildings we use, is about the institutions of learning these children go, and if they are not properly designed, Mr. Speaker, and the rest don't have that working knowledge of persons with disability, Mr. Speaker, it is only proper that we have somebody with the knowledge and skill in that sector, Mr. Speaker, assist this Senate, Mr. Speaker, so that we can have proper designs and proper accessible structures, Mr. Speaker, for persons living with disability, whether they are children or whether they are adults, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this statement and ask the committee to take this matter very seriously and with a view of coming up with legislation. And Mr. Speaker, with also a view of reviewing the existing legislation, Mr. Speaker, to enhance the punishment that will be meted on those who refuse to comply with that act, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Honorable Senators, for those who still wish to have a bite at this request, I believe we'll have an opportunity when the report is tabled by the relevant committee. For now, we'll move to the next request. Senator Professor Tomojenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise under Standing Order number 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding the state of rice farming in Kisumu County. In this statement, Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee should, number one, state the steps the county government of Kisumu has taken to secure and improve rice production, processing and marketing in Kisumu County, while outlining county funding initiatives for rice farmers, including plans for expansion of rice irrigation schemes, subsidies for rice farmers, and the reduction of field and storage losses to rice farmers, Mr. Speaker, sir. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, the county government should outline measures taken, if any, in value addition in rice production and processing, such as the construction and operationalization of rice mills. Thirdly, to give a detailed report on the state of rice cooperatives in Kisumu County, especially the marketing of rice subsector in the county to attract both local and foreign markets in a manner beneficial to rice farmers in the county. Fourth, Mr. Speaker, sir, to ascertain the state of projects that pertain to agriculture, irrigation and cooperatives in Kisumu County in terms of their operational and technical capacity and functionality as had been envisaged during the launch and completion of the various agricultural, irrigation and cooperatives projects. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, I beseech that the county government of Kisumu be summoned to explain the way forward in addressing the plight of farmers in Kisumu County with a view to moving the modus operandi from agricultural donations and distribution of livestock, like dairy cows and goats, to farmers to concrete policy formulation and implementation aimed at addressing the perennial core challenges plaguing agriculture, irrigation, and cooperatives in Kisumu County. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, the governor should be summoned to state the measures being undertaken by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development and the Ministry of Cooperatives and Micro and Macro Small Enterprises in expanding the rice irrigation schemes in Kisumu County to put more land under rice production, especially in the Kano Plains, and to improve the state of rice cooperatives in Kisumu County. I beg, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Sige. Senator Hamida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise, Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on austerity measures imposed by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, on developing countries, including Kenya. In the statement, the committee should, number one, state the reason the IMF imposed austerity measures on developing countries, including Kenya, while warning rich countries against austerity measures, explaining the safeguards put in place to ensure the measures do not escalate poverty levels in developing countries. Number two, explain the extent to which the austerity measures imposed by the IMF affect Kenyans' capacity to borrow loans from global lenders, noting that the country is still reeling from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic, which devastated the economy and increased the cost of living. Number 3, give a breakdown of the proposed austerity measures to be applied and which will directly lead to fiscal budget, tightening and adjustment in government expenditure, citing the targeted sectors. Number 4, clarify to the Senate whether the ministry has plans to ensure that the measures do not put vital public services at risk and exacerbate poverty and inequality. And the last, recommend that the IMF austerity program be tabled in the Senate and in each of the 47 county assemblies for scrutiny. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kathuri.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the need for redesigning and the section of the road on the Nithi Bridge on the Meru-Nairobi Highway and the construction of a modern bridge. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the steps, if any, that the Ministry of Roads, Transport and Public Works has taken towards redesigning and realignment of the bridge and the approaching road sections to ensure safety of its users, considering that in the last 10 years, over 27 accidents have occurred, all on near the bridge, resulting in about 68 fatalities, 98 injuries, and 27 slight injuries. And number 2, indicate, while providing timelines, what plans the ministry has for the construction of a modern bridge on the spot. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, to make just 2 minutes comment on this statement. That this bridge is between Chuka Town and the Meru Town. And as you have heard, for the last 10 years, we have lost 68 people on this Kiram bridge. Mr. Speaker, the previous governments promised us a hot year for the last 10 years that have been around as a registrator. We have really been petitioning the government to redesign this road and remove it from the curve, which is very dangerous, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, all those years, nothing has happened. And I hope this government now and His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, I remember during the campaigns, he actually gave a commitment that within the first year, you'll be able to ensure that his government starts the new bridge. And Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of trust in him and his government, and I'm hoping that this will be done. And my colleague on the Senator for the Rakanithi, because this bridge is in the Rakanithi, but we share the road, can attest that it is very, very dangerous. And the people of Meru and the Rakanithi will be very happy that this matter is now before the Senate. And I will work very closely with my friend, Senator Mwenda Gataya Mofaya, to ensure that we put enough fire to the relevant ministry so that we get this road redesigned and we get a new bridge. I'm happy that the chair, Road and Transport, is in this house, Mr. Speaker, because I'll ask him to take this matter with the seriousness it deserves and help our people so that we don't incur any losses through deaths, Mr. Speaker. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I arise to commend and to support the statement by the Deputy Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what is being raised by the member is a problem which is generally in our country. And I think it is important, Mr. Speaker, that the committee in charge of transport should even be able to go beyond what is being raised by the member. Mr. Speaker, we've lost a lot of lives, and there are specific hotspots, Mr. Speaker, in our roads. I'm sure every senator here today, if asked to mention, will mention 2 or 3 hotspots in their areas where people are actually losing their lives. And it is important for the ministry in charge, Mr. Speaker, to do this in every county. Mr. Speaker, in my own county, Baringo County, there is a notorious place where we've lost a lot of people. And when I was the member of Parliament Baringo North, we went with the then director of Kera to be able to study. Mr. Speaker, I think it is important that this House should be able to pronounce itself, that the ministry in charge should be able to go across the country and see these areas. Mr. Speaker, other areas where we have a problem are these rivers, where we've lost a lot of people when there is rains, floods, and so on. It is important, Mr. Speaker, that we rather prevent deaths of our people than witnessing it happening. So it is important that this is done. I want to urge my good friend, our chairman for transport, that your committee should go forth. In fact, when you will be inviting the Minister for Transport, who was actually a member of this House, I will also be present in that meeting so that I'm also able to articulate my issues for Baringo in addition to the one for our Deputy Speaker. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mandago.
Mr. Speaker, I support the statement by the Senator for Meru on that bridge, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've had opportunity myself to travel that route when I was a public servant, Mr. Speaker, and I realized that the accidents occurring in that bridge, Mr. Speaker, is not because the drivers are careless, Mr. Speaker, but it is attributed to the design of that road, Mr. Speaker. There is no way, Mr. Speaker, on a descending hill, you can have a Z kind of turn in a bridge, Mr. Speaker, and expect the drivers to be able to maneuver with that turn, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the redesign and construction of that bridge, Mr. Speaker, should be taken as a matter of emergency by the State Department of Roads, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that the lives that have been lost has resulted in families, others have been left probably orphans, children have been left without parents, are not able to continue with their education, and we cannot afford to continue losing lives, Mr. Speaker, if the matter has been raised for the last 10 years. I urge our chair for transport in this House, Mr. Speaker, to take that matter seriously, alongside other roads that have similar issues of design, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, other than taking immediate remedial measures of redesigning and constructing the bridge, Mr. Speaker, the responsible engineers who design those roads, Mr. Speaker, should also be taken into account, because in their professional ethics, Mr. Speaker, safety is paramount in design of our roads, and they therefore should take seriously the matters of design so that we don't lose lives in our roads as a result of design errors, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Mundigi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I arise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to check a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism regarding the high cess levied on transporters of Mogoka cargo from Bere in Embu County. In statement, the committee should, 1, state the measures the government has put in place, if any, to harmonize cess levies on Mogoka on transits to Mombasa and its avions. 2, state the measures being put in place, if any, to strengthen exercise Mogoka cooperative societies with the aim of facilitating members to access loans that will enable them engage in activities to improve their business. And 3, table a progress report on those Kapingase and Kamomo dams that have been earmarked to supply water for Mogoka farming as well as other domestic use. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Faki.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, nimesikia Mheshimiwa Senator wa Embu akizungumzia masuala ya Mogoka. Mheshimiwa Speaker, swala hilo nafikiri kwa watu wa Mombasa ni swala ambalo limezua utata, kwa sababu ulaji wa Mogoka umeharibu nyumba nyingi sana. Umeharibu nyumba nyingi na pia umeharibu vijana wengi ambao badala ya kufanya kazi, Mheshimiwa Speaker, wanarandaranda, wanawaacha bibi zao nyumbani.
What's your point of order, Senator Kadhuri?
Hakuna.
Naomba Bwana Spika, kwa heshima kuu, Senator wa Mombasa anajua hii kilimo ndiyo imewezesha watu wake pale wafaulu, sababu hiyo pesa unasikia inadaiwa levies. Hiyo serikali ya Mombasa inachukua kiwango kingi sana, na nimfahamisha kwamba Miraa siku hizi ni mmea kama kahawa, kama miwa, kama majani chai, kama korosho na kama mnazi. Kwa hivyo tafadhali usiharibu mmea ambao unatulea huko Meru, sababu Miraa na Mogoka ni moja. Naomba tafadhali uchunga hiyo laini, sababu unapitia laini nyembamba sana.
What is your point of order? What is your point of order? I'm struggling to get your point of order. What is your point of order?
Actually, it was a point of information, Mr. Speaker, because I wanted to inform him that he is defaming a cash crop. That is actually a brand to many people in Meru and Embu counties. Actually, I'm a farm of Mogoka, 15 acres. I remember even you were discussing with you how I can give you 1 acre of my farm so that you can also benefit from this crop.
Senator Faki, kindly proceed.
Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Speaker, singependa kujulishwa chochote na Senator wa Meru, kwa sababu najua athari za Miraa na athari za Mogoka, na vijana wengi hivi sasa wameweza kuathirika kwa mambo haya, Mheshimiwa Speaker. Kwa hivyo mbali na kwamba wanalia kwamba ushuru ama zile kodi zinazotozwa ni ziko juu, mimi ningependekeza ziongezwe maradufu ili mmea huu usiweze kufika Mombasa na usiweze kufika Pwani, ili vijana wetu waweze kuokoka, Mheshimiwa Speaker. Kila kijana ambaye anamaliza shule hivi sasa, Mheshimiwa Speaker, anakimbia ataka kukaa kule Mogoka. Wengi hawataka kufanya kazi, Mheshimiwa Speaker, wengi hawataki kuoa, Mheshimiwa Speaker. Kwa hivyo hawataki kuoa kwa sababu uwezo wao wa kushika nyumba, Mheshimiwa Speaker, umeathirika na mmea huu. Hawawezi kushika nyumba sawa, Mheshimiwa Speaker. Hakuna na ziko na yako mambo
Senator Falakipia, what is your point of order? What is your point of order?
Bwana Speaker, nimemsikiza ndugu yangu Faki. Bwana Speaker, hakuna kitu hata kilicho duniani ukizidisha kitakuwa na madhara yake. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri Senator Faki aweleze vijana kutoka Pwani. Hiyo mambo ya kusema ati wameshindwa kuweka nyumba, kushika nyumba, sidhani ni kwa sababu ya mmea ule, kwa sababu ukitembea sehemu nyingi yule ni mtu yeye mwenyewe ameamua kutafuna.
I didn't give an opportunity to lecture us on Mogoka. What is your point of order?
Hoja yangu ya nidhamu Bwana Spika ni kusema hakuna kitu ambacho ukipitisha kile ambacho kimekubalika, hata chakula, hata maziwa ama chakula kingine chochote kinaleta madhara yake. Kwa hivyo vile ambavyo ningependa kusema ni ya kwamba vijana wale wetu pale pwani waambiwe ya kwamba ni vizuri mle mmea si mbaya, lakini wasipitishe kile ambacho kiwango kinachohitajika. Ni mmea mzuri na ni mmea ambao unaletea nchi yetu ya Kenya mapato mengi. Kwa hivyo
what is this that Senator Fake said that is out of order that has prompted you to
anasema vijana wa pwani wameshindwa kushika nyumba, na hiyo wanapaswa wajipange vizuri ama tutumie vijana waweze kuwasaidia kushika nyumba.
Mheshimiwa Speaker,
Senator Mazayo, what is your point of order?
Asante mstahiki Spika. Mstahiki Spika, Kiswahili ni lugha ambayo tunaelewa sote, lakini kusema kwamba vijana hawawezi kushika nyumba ni Kiswahili ambacho mimi mwenyewe pia kimenishinda kuelewa. Kwa hiyo sijui alikuwa anamaanisha nini. Manake ni Kiswahili, tutashika nyumba kwa hivi ama tutafanya namna gani? Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika afafanue vizuri ili tuweze kuelewa kushika nyumba anaishika vipi. Wale vijana wa kutoka pwani wote tunajua wanakula hiyo kitu pia. Kwa hiyo wanakula hiyo mguka ambao amesema yule ndugu yangu wa Embu. Lakini sasa mimi siwezi kuelewa na ningemuuliza pengine aweze kufafanua zaidi. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Faki, kindly make the House understand what you mean by vijana hawezi kushika nyumba.
Mheshimiwa Spika, kushika nyumba ni neno la kistaarabu linalomaanisha kwamba wameshindwa kustarehe na wake zao. Sasa ukiniambia kustarehe nini, ni bibi ama bwana kumuingilia bibi yake wa halali ama yule kimada ambaye yuko naye. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hili swala la Miraa na Mugoka ni swala ambalo ni nyeti katika eneo la Mombasa na tumelizungumzia, na tuna utafiti ambao umefanyika ambao waonesha athari hizi za mimea hii miwili. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kama bangi ilipigwa marufuku kwa sababu ukivuta bangi inafanya kichwa chako kuruka. Kwa hivyo Mugoka na Miraa, Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiila kwa siku 2 mfululizo.
Senator Sifuna, what is your point?
Anafuta bangi huyo.
Mstahiki Speaker, naamini kwamba seneta anaposimama kuzungumza hapa lazima awe anaweza kuzungumza masuala ambayo anaweza kuyadhibitisha. Sidhani kwamba seneta wa Mombasa ambaye anamheshimu sana akiwa ndugu yangu anaweza toa idhibati yoyote kuonyesha kwamba uvutaji wa bangi unapelekea watu kuruka vichwa. Hiyo ndio hoja yangu ya nidhamu.
Senator Faki, just proceed and conclude your contribution.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, unilinde kwa sababu mambo ninayozungumzia hapa ni mambo ambayo ni nyeti, yanaathiri sana watu wa Mombasa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni wazi kwamba tuna utafiti ambao umefanyika na hata ikitakana mimi naweza kuwasilisha stakabadhi hapa Jumanne ya kuonesha athari za mimea Miraa na Mugoka. Na tuseme kwamba ni biashara, kwa hivyo watu wafanye. Kama ni biashara, anzeni kununua wenyewe kwanza Meru, anzeni kununua wenyewe Embu, anzeni kwa Tharaka Nithi, uzianeni kwanza kule mpaka iwaenee ndio mtuletee sisi Mombasa. Tusikia. Lakini haiwezekani Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba mmea kama huu ambao unaathiri vijana wetu, unaathiri wasichana wetu, Mheshimiwa Spika, uruhusiwe kuuzwa kiholela kama unavyouzwa sasa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naunga mkono kaunti yetu ya Mombasa iongeze kodi ya mimea hii miwili ili tuweze kulinda vizazi vijavyo vya watu wa Mombasa na kaunti zingine jirani kama vile Lamu. Hata Lamu, Mheshimiwa Spika, hii mimea hii miwili imeathiri sana jamii. Na hatuwezi kunyamaza hapa tukasema kwamba kwa kuwa watu wapata chakula, watu wanalipa school fees, kwetu sisi ni kama biashara ya haramu. Kwa hivyo tungependa tungependa masuala hii yazungumziwe kisasa. Si lawama kwamba ati twalipisha kodi nyingi kwa mimea. Tunataka iongezwe ile kodi ili mimea hii isiweze kufika Mombasa na kuathiri vijana wetu, kuathiri dada zetu na watoto wetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, asante kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Senator Tabitha Mutinda.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, and I would like to contribute on this issue of Mogoka, Miraa. And I want to highly dispute what Senator Faki has stated, that Mogoka is a product that is spoiling the youth in Mombasa. As a leader, Mr. Speaker, it is their responsibility to ensure that their youths in Mombasa and other areas are able to use the product Mogoka to the levels that are needed. You do not bring blame games because you do not know how to use products. And to ask, Mr. Speaker, surely between Mogoka and madawa and drugs, which one actually, as leaders, is on extreme levels? So the Mogoka product, it's a cash crop in this country. And it coming from my region, Meru, for that matter, is a product that we highly, respect, because it is improving the livelihoods of our people in Meru, in Tharaka Nithi, Embu. So the senator should not mislead this house and his youth in the coastal region by stating that it should be put aside, it should not be a market product in Mombasa. It is a product like any other product in this country. It is your choice to decide either to use it or not. There is nowhere that it is stated, even items like cigarettes, items like alcohol, it's your personal choice. So at the end of the day, this is, as Kenyans, this is our economic product. And we should actually be looking on how to add value into this Mogoka product. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Gataya Mofaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to support the statement by Senator Mundigi from Embu County, who has brought a very pertinent issue on Mogoka. Mogoka, Honorable Speaker, is a crop just like any other, just like coffee, just like tea, just like mnazi, and it should be accorded the very respect that we accord other crops. We have thousands of people in Tharaka Nithi, in Embu, in Meru, whose livelihood depends on Mogoka and Miraa, and I want to dispute the allegations by Mombasa Senator that Mogoka is a drug. I would advise Mheshimiwa Faki to bring a registration through my committee, because I'm the chair delegated, maybe to outlaw, and I'm sure it is not going to see the light of the day. So I think Mogoka and Miraa should be accorded the right attention, and those that are eating Miraa in Mombasa or any other part of this country should be given freedom to do so freely without any intimidation. So in a rejoinder, Honorable Speaker, there was a statement that was raised by my senior, my brother, Senator from Meru County, Senator Kaduri Muronge, on Nithi Bridge. I want to confirm, Honorable Speaker, that Nithi Bridge is in my county, and this bridge is a national disaster. It's a monster. Nithi Bridge has claimed very many lives, and it's high time that the government should act upon this bridge to save lives. Because this bridge, Honorable Speaker, serves quite a number of counties all the way from northeastern, Marsabit, Isiolo, Meru, Embu, Tharaka-Nithi. It's a national disaster, Honorable Speaker. So I think I'm happy that the member for Meru brought this issue, and we urge the Committee on Transport to move with a lot of speed and make sure that we have put in mechanisms through which we can redesign this bridge, maybe to save more lives. I remember His Excellency the President in his campaign trail promised that in his very first 100 days, we are going to have the Nithi bridge redesigned, and I trust his word. I'm very sure once we settle as a government, this will be the first priority, but they should get a report from the chair, Transport through his committee, to make sure that we have a bridge which does not kill people. Thank you.
Economy, as witnessed in other economies around the world, recalling that the strong and consistent commitment and political goodwill can deliver the needed growth for the realization of steady and sustainable economic growth, and concerned that previous support by the government to this sector has merely been a knee-jerk reaction in form of skewed funding and tokenism, cognizant that there exists no unified national policy or legislation in support of the sector and SMEs across the entire value chain. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the national government develops a unified national policy on small and micro enterprises, SMEs, detailing recognition, funding, mentoring, expansion, restructuring, and marketing of the SMEs products. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, special motion, appointment of a member to the Parliamentary Service Commission.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on a light note, I noticed the Honorable Junet was very happy when you stood up and you ably protected him from the Honorable Bensouda. And just as I mentioned the Honorable Bensouda, she reappeared. Honorable Speaker, also allow me to appreciate and recognize the students that you appreciated, because part of those students is a group from the school that the Honorable Clive and Honorable Clive went to, and I also went to. Honorable Clive was many years my junior at the school, and of course, Mr. Speaker, I know many members will appreciate it. The school is the Alliance High School. Honorable Speaker, I beg now to move that, noting the resolution of the Senate on Wednesday, 9th November 2022, regarding its partial concurrence on the appointment of members of the Parliamentary Service Commission, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 49, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 127(2) of the Constitution, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Senator Eric Okongo Mogeni, Senior Council Member of Parliament, to the Parliamentary Service Commission under subsection C2 of the said article. Honorable Speaker, members, we recall that on Tuesday this week, the 8th of November, this House passed a motion that approved the appointment of 7 of our members, including the Honorable Faith Getao, Honorable Mohammed Ali, Honorable Deruto Kenywa, Honorable Joyce Korir, Honorable Mishi Juma, Honorable Kingola Patrick, and the Senator, Honorable Fatuma Adan Dulo. And Honorable Speaker, this approval was then relayed to the Senate, asking them for concurrence on the issue. However, Honorable Speaker, the Senate did agree with us
on 6 of the nominees on the list, but amended the name of the Senator Honorable Fatuma Adan Dulo, CBS MP, replacing her with the Honorable Senator Eric Okongo Mogeni, Senior Counsel and MP. And that's why, Honorable Speaker, I'm therefore asking the House to agree with the decision of the Senate. And Honorable Speaker, members will appreciate that in parliamentary parlance, any rejection of a name by either house, we cannot even mediate, because we can't mediate on a name. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, that rejection or non-concurrence by the Senate of the name of Honorable Eric Okongo, Honorable Adan Dulo, and replacing with Eric Okongo Mogeni, basically means that the Honorable Fatuma Adan Dulo has been rejected by the other house. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, the best that we can do is to concur with the Senate and allow the commission now to be fully constituted. The commission has to be sworn in and embark on a lot of work that is ahead of the commission. And members will appreciate what the Speaker said, that the commission has a huge responsibility on matters that pertain to the running of both houses of parliament, matters relating to the welfare of members, Honorable Speaker, and therefore want to urge the House to consider concurring to concur with the Senate. And I honestly sympathize and empathize with our brothers and sisters from our old party, the party we left, Jubilee Party. We sympathize with you. We wish there's anything we could have done for you. But in due course, maybe something else will come up. And because, Honorable Speaker, as you ably guided, Honorable Speaker, and I would really not want to get into the politics of the Azimio coalition, and this has nothing to do with the politics within the Azimio coalition. It is a decision that has been made collectively by Senate, where the Honorable Fatuma Dulo sits. Therefore, and Okongo Mogeni also sits in that house. That house is better appraised in knowing who better represents them in the commission. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I really want to urge all of us not to even spend a lot of time on this matter, as I move and ask the Honorable Osoro, the Deputy Whip, to second, and urge members to concur and agree with the Senate to allow the Commission to move on. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, while seconding this motion, Honorable Speaker, I do not really want to also shelve into the matters of the Azimio coalition. But, Honorable Speaker, there are whispers that are within the plenary in regard to, the nomination or the replacement of Honorable Fatuma. But, Honorable Speaker, this whole thing came from the Senate. We do not need to find ourselves in the same water swimming with the Senate, against the Senate, when you want to move in as a House and proceed with the matters that pertains to the leadership of this House. Honorable Speaker, the PSC matter has been long overdue. It's a matter that has made the whole thing, the operations of the National Assembly and even the operations of the Senate messy. Even the matters that we're discussing here today, even in regards to matters to do with budgeting and traveling and everything, or anything that touches on the members' welfare. Honorable Speaker, that can only happen when there is a constituted commission, which does not exist currently. I'm imagining the position you are at, Honorable Speaker, because you chair a commission currently of members that lost an election, most of members that lost an election. I can imagine the operations, within the commission's offices. I do not want to imagine what they do, but I can tell you, Honorable Speaker, that I know you are in a hard place. And it's important for us to pass this name and proceed. And, Honorable Speaker, I urge you, once we finish passing the name, we proceed with swearing them in and proceed with the work that we deserve to do as in the House. But even as I do that, Honorable Speaker, I do not want to be the devil's advocate. But it's important for me to say this, that our Azimio, our brothers from the Jubilee coalition should stop, I'm just being a devil's advocate, they should stop equating themselves with the ODM, because ODM is a big party and they are a small party. Their time of fame ended. I'm just being a devil's advocate. Their time of fame ended. It's a former large party.
Honorable Soro, order. Desist from raising unhelpful passions in the House.
I withdraw. Honorable Speaker. I withdraw, Honorable Speaker. And second.
Order. He has withdrawn. He has disowned those unhelpful remarks. Honorable members, I now propose the question that noting the resolution of the Senate on Wednesday, 9th November 2022, regarding its partial concurrence on the appointment of members of Parliament to the Parliamentary Service Commission, notwithstanding the provision of Standing Order 49, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 127(2) of the Constitution, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Senator Eric Okongo Mogeni, Senior Council MP to the Parliamentary Service Commission, under subsection C2 of the said article. Honorable members, before I put the question, order, honorable members, there are two members who have passionately appealed that I give them an opportunity to say something. They are from the aggrieved party of Jubilee, and I want to encourage that we don't open this matter any more than it's necessary. I'll give the Honorable Korere to speak for 5 minutes, and the Honorable Sabina Chege. If you raise unhelpful passions, I'll stop you because you just wanted to make a contribution to this. After that, if it's the mood of the House that we put the question, I'll then come back to do so. Korere, the Honorable.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, inafahamika kwamba awali kuna hoja ilipitishwa na nyumba hii kuhusiana na uteuzi wa makamishna ya tume ambayo tunazungumzia juu yake. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kubatilishwa kwa hoja hiyo katika bunge la Seneti si jambo geni. Na sio vile tunataka kuambiwa kwamba ni Seneti inabadilisha. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii imekuwa ni mazoea na tabia ambayo wamezoea ndugu zetu katika mrengo wa Azimio ambaye ni ODM kufanya siasa za udanganyifu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kucheza siasa za ulaghai na usiasa za unafiki. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, ndugu zetu kutoka ODM nataka kuwapasha kwamba hao ni wanafiki wabaya sana. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kusema nikisimama kwenye jumba hii kwamba tulipojiunga nao hatukushurutishwa, hatukulazimishwa, na tutakapotalaka hatutashurutishwa, tutawatalaka jinsi tunataka. Mheshimiwa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nasema hivi kwa sababu nilipokuwa nagombea kiti changu katika eneo bunge la Laikipia Kaskazini, Mheshimiwa Junet na party leader wake walikuja kumpigia debe aliyekuwa mshindani wangu katika chama cha ODM. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kana kwamba hiyo haijatosha, wametufuata na dhuluma katika jumba hili. Mheshimiwa Spika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi kuomba nafasi yetu katika tume sio tafadhali, lakini Mheshimiwa Spika ni haki yetu. Sisi kuomba kuwakilisha watu wetu katika kamati za bunge hii sio tafadhali, tulipigania. Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo tunataka kuwapasha kwamba jinsi tutakapoendelea, ndugu zangu wa Kenya kwanza, musubiri, manake hamukuwa makasisi katika ndoa yetu na hamutakuwa makasisi katika talaka yetu. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nasema wala sina shaka kwamba seneta aliyotajwa ako na uwezo kutuwakilisha katika tume, lakini ukweli Mheshimiwa Spika ni kwamba ODM wametulagai. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, wewe si mgeni kwa ulagai wa ODM. Shukrani Mheshimiwa Spika.
The Speaker is not part of this debate. Honorable Sabina Chege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I want to start from where Honorable Korere ended. Mr. Speaker, though I can tell that the majority will have their way, it is also important for the minority to have their say, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the general agreement was we were supposed to have a commissioner coming from Jubilee, ODM, and Wiper Party. And just to answer my colleague, it is not that we are a small party or we're quitting ourselves with ODM. We are in a mutual relationship. And we also are in a relationship that we demand respect. So Wiper got their share, and from here, Jubilee was supposed to get their share. So we are not saying Omogeni is not qualified. He's actually my friend. All we were asking, Mr. Speaker, but I know I'll not have my way because the majority want we proceed and have the commissioners, is that we would have been given time as a coalition to sit down and agree on a way forward. But Mr. Speaker, because I can read the mood of this House, and I know it's not possible.
Sabina Chege, for the record, the chair overindulged your coalition, and Honorable Wanda is my witness, to bring the names, and we took a lot of time. I'm not inviting him to say anything. So the issue of time is neither here nor there.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, that's why I said I can also read the mood of the House. And I can tell everybody once we move on. But it's good and important to go on record. As we blame our coalition partners, ODM, I don't think we are the ones to be blamed. I want to blame my own party, Jubilee Party. That, Mr. Speaker, Jubilee Party cannot be sending 2 or 3 letters on one issue giving different instructions, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to address, and I'm nominated by Jubilee Party, Mr. Speaker. I want to address my party and say, put your act together. Even on the issue, Mr. Speaker, of Yala, we had 3 letters coming from the same party and giving different names. This is really not... Allow me to speak. So, Mr. Speaker, I will speak like that because the reality of the matter is we gave the name of Aluke. We also gave a different name altogether as one party. So we must have a clear direction from my party. If we are writing a letter, it should be one letter addressing an issue and not again going back and deceiving other people, Mr. Speaker. So as we blame ODM, and I would have loved, and I wish the leadership had the Speaker, because I also reached out to the Speaker, I reached out to you, Mr. Speaker, and I would have loved that we don't clean our dirty linen in public, that we are given just this weekend to sit down as a coalition. But because that will not happen, Mr. Speaker, that's why I said I will choose to address my party. Let us put our act together. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, the Honorable Sabina Chege. My last glance at your record showed that as a Jubilee member, you are also the Deputy Chief Whip of the side that you are chiding. I'll give the last up to the Honorable TJ Kajwang. Then I'll put the question. TJ, give him the microphone. I'll give you 2 minutes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. You know, there is nothing more expensive now in this House than being a member of Azimio. Because you become a favorite punch bag, but to become a member of ODM is now like having gold. Because everybody seems to think that good things are coming from ODM, even when ODM does not have capacity to deliver. What has ODM not done? ODM allowed the member from Jubilee to be processed in this house. We were here, and we consented, and we voted, and we had allowed Jubilee to have a member which was taken to Senate. What could we do? Did we have to go to Senate and become members there to be able to vote for the Jubilee Party? When somebody is saying here that he's talking about marriages and divorce, you know, method of marriages and divorce is very lucrative, and people laugh a lot. Yeah? But you need to know what happens in people's bedrooms. So you see, when people bring names and discuss parties, when we don't have a right to reply, Mr. Speaker, this is very, very unfair. But of course, people don't make relationships on the streets. They make them in the bedroom. So we know that there's problems. We will go back to the bedroom and do the work properly now. So if Jubilee or any other party has an issue, we cannot be a party which is intimidated every day. We cannot be intimidated every day. And it is only in this parliament where this relationship is decided, you know, halfway. One time, we are not an Azimio, we are not majority or minority. Another time, we go to that same contract to decide the relationship between us. When we are not human beings. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this...
You've made your point.
I've made my point.
Thank you. Order, honorable members. Order. Before I put the question, honorable members, I want to acknowledge the following students in the public gallery. Students from Jiri High School, Kisumu, in Muranga. Students from Kirangari High School in Lower Kabete. And Bensono Institute of Professionals from Westlands, Nairobi. On your behalf and on behalf of the chair, we welcome them to the House of Parliament. Honorable members, now I put the question that noting the resolution of the Senate of Wednesday, 9th November 2022, regarding its partial concurrence on the appointment of members of Parliament to the Parliamentary Service Commission, notwithstanding the provision of Standing Order 49 and pursuant to the provisions of Article 127(2) of the Constitution, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Senator Eric Okongo Mogeni, Senior Council MP, to the Parliamentary Service Commission under subsection C(2) of the said article. Will as men of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, order. Every member has the right to say no or yes or remain silent. Honorable members, I give now the following direction before we go to the next order. All the commissioners who have been approved by both houses will in the next 30 minutes proceed to County Hall. I also invite the leadership of the House, Majority Leader, your Deputy, Majority Whip Deputy, Minority Leader Deputy, Minority Whip Deputy, to proceed to County Hall for the swearing in of the new commissioners to give them an opportunity to start working forthwith. Next order.
Order number 10, special motion, consideration of the nominee for appointment as Inspector General of the National Police Service. Who is the co-chairperson?
Honorable Tongoyo. I'm told.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the following motion. I beg to move the following motion that taking into consideration the finding of the Joint Committee of National Assembly, Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs, and Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations, in its report on the vetting of Engineer Javed Koome Jebere for approval as Inspector General of the National Police Service, laid on the table of the House yesterday, Wednesday, November 9th, 2022, and pursuant to the provision of Section 12(1) of the National Police Service Act 2011 and Section 8 of the Public Appointment Act 2011, this House approved the appointment of Engineer Javed Koome Jebere as the Inspector General of Police Service.
Order, honorable members. Those who are withdrawing from the chamber, kindly do it quietly. You may proceed, honorable member.
Yeah, members, honorable Speaker, some order, please. So, Madam Speaker, after receiving messages from His Excellency the President on the nomination of Engineer Javed Koome Jebere for appointment to the position of Inspector General of National Police Service, the Speaker of National Assembly and the Senate on Tuesday 25th October 2022 and Tuesday 18th respectively issued a communication and directed the approval hearing for the nominee for the appointment of the position of Inspector General of Police Service be conducted jointly by the both houses of Parliament as required by the Constitution and National Police Service Act 2011. Engineer Javed Koome is currently the Commandant of the National Police College, Main Campus Kigancho. He has over 31 years experience in the police service, and he started as a police constable in 1991 and rose through the ranks over the years. Mr. Speaker, the nominee has served in various senior managerial positions such as Commander and the Stock Theft Unit, OCPD in various regions, Officer in charge of practical police work at Kigancho Police Training College, Deputy Director Planning in Kenya Police Service, Regional Commander in Nairobi, and later the Principal Deputy Inspector General, a position held before he became a Commandant of the National Police College. Mr. Speaker, during his tenure in the police service, Engineer Koome played key role as operational commander during the Tokyo International Conference on Africa Development in Nairobi, United Nations Conference and Trade Development, and the visit by the Pope Francis to Nairobi, Kenya, and the general election of the year 2017, among other major international conferences held in Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, Article 245, Section 1 and 245, Section 2A of the Constitution establishes the Office of the Inspector General, which is an office in the National Police Service. The Inspector General is appointed by the President with approval of Parliament. The Inspector General exercises independent command over the National Police Service and perform many other functions prescribed by the national legislation. Madam Speaker, the name of the nominee and his curriculum vitae were referred to the Speaker of the National Assembly, to the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs, and by the Speaker of the Senate to the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations. The committees held a preliminary sitting on Monday the 7th November 2022 to prepare for the approval hearing and consider memoranda received from the public. Madam Speaker, to fulfill the requirement on personal integrity, the clerk on Tuesday 25th October wrote to the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, Kenya Revenue Authority, the Ethics and Corruption Commission, the Registrar of Political Parties, and the Higher Education Loan Board to ascertain the nominee's good standing with the said government institutions. The nominee was also required to submit clearance letters from the said agencies. Madam Speaker, the Formation Committee complied with the constitutional and legal requirement and established procedures for the approval hearing. The committees ensured public participation and openness in carrying out the approval process. Notification inviting the public to submit memoranda were placed in the mainstream print media on the 25th of October, as required under the law. Madam Speaker, the committees conducted the approval hearing on 8th, that is on Tuesday, 2022. In conducting the approval hearing, the committee were guided by the provision of the Constitution, the National Police Service Act 2011, and the Public Appointment Act 2011, and the standing orders of the respective houses. Madam Speaker, during the approval hearing, the committee considered the nominees' duly filled questionnaire, the curriculum vitae, the candidates' academic credentials, provisional training and experience, personal integrity and background report from relevant authorities, and oral submission, and made the following observation. 1, that the nominee is an experienced police officer serving at the rank of the Senior Assistant Inspector General of Police. He joined the Kenya Police Service in 1991 and rose through the ranks to his current rank, currently serving as the Commandant of the National Police College, Kiganjo. He has experience of 31 years in the police service. 2, that the nominee has a rich academic background. He holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Nairobi University, awarded in 1990, and is a registered civil engineer by the Engineers Board of Kenya. In addition, Madam Speaker, he holds certificates and awards on counting violence extremist, regional senior mission leaders courses, transformational organization culture for maximum growth, and major crime management course, among many others. Madam Speaker, the nominee holds several awards in recognition of his outstanding and distinguished service he rendered to the nation in various capacities and responsibilities. During the approval hearing, Madam Speaker, the nominee exhibited knowledge in matters relating to security, law, management, leadership skills, and qualities necessary to administer and manage the command of the National Police Service as a disciplined service as prescribed under Section 11 of the National Police Act. That based on the evidence submitted during the approval hearing, the nominee met all the constitutional requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity, and statutory requirement necessary for appointment as Inspector General of the National Police Service, provided for under Section 7B of the Public Appointment and Parliamentary Approval Act number 33 of 2011. That the nominee has never been dismissed from office for contravention of the provision of Article 75(1) or 76, 77, and even 78B of the Constitution of Kenya. That the nominee has the necessary experience and qualified to hold the office of the Inspector General of the Police Service Commission, National Police Service, as per the requirement of the National Police Service 2011. Madam Speaker, the recommendation of the committee is that this House approve the nomination of Engineer Javed Koome Jebere for appointment to the position of Inspector of Police by appointing authority. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move, and now I want to call upon, Madam Speaker, my Vice Chair, Honorable Raso, to second.
Yes, seconder?
Yes, it's me. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Chair. I second this motion by saying this, that Mr. Javed Koome is one of the most distinguished police officers in their career. in a very long time, he happens to be one of those who have waited in line for almost 30 years to rise to the very top. For that reason, in this country, if there is justice, fairness, equity, and all those things that are associated with the good things that we find in the Bill of Rights, then anyone can rise to the top. Madam Speaker, as the chairman has already elaborated, we looked at Article 10, Article 243, Chapter 6, in particular Article 73, responsibilities of leadership, conduct, financial probity, citizenship, and leadership. The committee raised several questions with this particular nominee that has to do with corruption, extrajudicial killings, insecurity, particularly in livestock rustling and killing in Asal and Asal areas. Madam Speaker, this particular nominee has shown us that he is up to the task because he ably answered all the questions that were raised by this honorable committee. Madam Speaker, further to that, I think Mr. Kome comes about as one of those who have rose through the ranks from a constable to senior assistant deputy inspector general. That is indicative that he has been able to do all the police work. His last assignment was the commandant, Kiganjo Police Training College, which is the premier police academy in Kenya. From that, it is showing us a very clear indication that this man has the understanding of police work at all required levels. And for that reason, we believe as a committee that the person we have presented today will be able to do police work believing and following the Constitution and also the Police Service Act 2011 and also the amended version which is 2015. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to call upon the House to approve this nominee so that there is no gap within the Police Service Commission that has not had a DIG, an IG, I think, for the last 2 months or so. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I beg to second.
Propose the question. Honorable members, I'll propose the question first. Honorable members, I propose the question that taking into consideration the findings of the Joint Committee on National Assembly, Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs, and the Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations, in its report on the vetting of Engineer Japheth Koome Chembere for approval as Inspector General of the National Police Service, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, November 9, 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 12(1) of the National Police Service Act 2021 and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011. This House approves the appointment of Engineer Japheth Koome Chembere as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. Okay. Honorable members, is it the mood of the House? So then, honorable members, I'm going to put the question, which is that the mover be called upon to reply, because the mover has a right to reply. May as many or as of that opinion say aye? Okay, honorable members, then in that case, honorable members, order. May as many as of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. So then, honorable members, I call upon the mover to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to thank members by approving the nominee for the position of the Inspector General of Police. And I want to say that the man is up to the task. We know the challenges that are ahead of us in this country. And I want to say, I reply.
Honorable members, I now put the question that taking into consideration the findings of the Joint Committee on the National Assembly, Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs, and the Senate Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations in its report on the vetting of Engineer Japheth Koome Mchembere for the approval of Inspector General of National Police Service, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, November 9th, 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 12(1) of the National Police Service Act 2011 and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011. This House approves the appointment of Engineer Japheth Koome Mchembere as the Inspector General of the National Police Service. May as many as of that opinion say aye. May as many of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, next order.
Order number 11, motion, tree planting along the roadsides and road reserves.
The Honorable Kiaria. Order, honorable members, those who are withdrawing from the chamber, may you kindly do so in silence. I would like now to invite the Honorable John Kiarie, MP. The Honorable John Kiarie. KJ. Kindly provide the mic to the Honorable John Kiarie.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion, and this is a motion on tree planting along the roadsides and road reserves. And Madam Speaker, aware that Article 42 of the Constitution accords every person a right to a clean and healthy environment, and that Article 9, 1D, also mandates the state to encourage public participation in the management, protection, and conservation of the environment, and further aware that deforestation is one of the main contributors to climate change, noting that Kenya has not been spared by the effects of global warming and climate change as a result of deforestation, among other aspects. Also aware that the road network in the country currently stands at approximately 177,800 kilometers, with a development rate of around 600 kilometers per annum, and deeply concerned that there has been persistent destruction of trees and vegetation along the road reserves and roadsides during the road construction efforts, leading to adverse effects on the ecosystem, and also cognizant of the fact that studies have shown that the benefits of the benefits accumulated from roadside tree planting include better soil formation due to the shedding of dead leaves, increased water quality by reducing the sediment flow, reduced erosion, road beautification, flood control as the trees slow and absorb water runoff, wind breaking, and providing important pollinator habitats, improving people's health and protecting crops. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the government includes a component of tree planting in all road network designs, and also makes it compulsory for road contractors to replace any tree harvested during road construction upon completion of the project. Now, Madam Speaker, this motion could not have come at a better time. The world is coming out of Egypt for the COP summit. And Madam Speaker, the effects of drought, the effects of climate change are clear for everyone to see. Today we are talking about a drought situation in this country, Madam Speaker. We are talking of the effects of the adverse results of climate change, including drought, lack of water, and all the other issues that come with it. Madam Speaker, I hail from a city called Nairobi City County. And the history of Nairobi City County is very well associated to the story of climate change, flooding, El Nino, and La Nina. Madam Speaker, when this republic was being formed, the colonizers were looking for a place where they could place a capital city. At that time, they were not looking for a capital city to be a commercial center. They were looking for a place where they could place the headquarters for the railway line. The British were constructing a railway line coming all the way from the coast of Mombasa, looking for their ways into the hinterland to a place called Uganda. And when they were doing this, they wanted a person who can set up a city. And they identified a place called Masaku. And they said that Masaku looks like a good place to put a capital city. And Masaku was going to be the capital city of a republic called Kenya. They dispatched a young man by the name of Ainsworth, who was a district commissioner. He must have been around 20-something years old. And he started setting up a city in Masaku. But these Mzungus, on their way up to the escarpment, came across a small, swampy, flat land. Then there was a small market called Kanyonyo, around and about where this parliament sits today. And they saw it to be a flat, beautiful area, and they thought this would be a good place to construct the city. And so they changed the plans and decided, instead of putting up the city in Masaku, they decided to put it up where Nairobi sits today. At that point, they were looking for the cool waters coming from Kikuyu Springs. They were looking for the provisions of food that would come from the northern sides. And they thought that the eastern sides, where Kangundo now is and Embakasi, would be a good place for people and workers in the railway to set up their houses. And so Ainsworth started designing a city called Nairobi. Ainsworth was informed by the model of the apartheid movement then. And he drew a city, the capital city, the CBD, in a grid formation all the way down to Grogan Road, and decided to set up the high-end areas for living in Lavington, Kileleshwa, Kilimani, decided that the Asians can reside across the river in Ngara, High Range, Parklands, and Westlands, and decided that the natives, the Africans, can be set up somewhere around Modhurwa so that they can get their provisions on the northern side and the eastern side around Kangundo. And they set up a city. What they did not know is that they were setting up a city in the time of La Nina. Soon after, the colonialists were to regret when the El Nino rains started beating the city. Immediately, Ainsworth realized that Nairobi was actually an undrainable swamp. So much water was captured in this small swamp called Nairobi that it was immotorable, it was unlivable, it was mosquito infested, it was one big pond. Ainsworth did not have the technology to drain the city, and he searched far and wide. He did a big search and spin, and a solution came in the form of an exotic tree in the name of the blue gum, what we call the eucalyptus. Ainsworth learned out of science that the blue gum tree is able to absorb water in quantities larger than any other tree. And Ainsworth set upon planting blue gum trees in this city. And he planted so many of them, Madam Speaker. If you walk down to a place called the National Theatre or the Norfolk, you can see the relics of these trees. Big, massive trees, probably 100 and something years old. But Ainsworth did not stop at the city. He set up to planting these trees along the roads. If you see Ngong Road, before the expansion, it was lined with many trees going all the way to Karen. If you look at Waiyaki Way, there were trees lining up Waiyaki Way on both ways, on both sides of the road. Around the State House area and Arboretum area, these trees have been there for more than a century. Madam Speaker, in our recent efforts to construct roads, we have cut all the trees that Ainsworth planted over a century ago. Of course, Madam Speaker, with new technology, we have also, with new science, we have also come to learn that there are some trees that are not good for the environment. This blue gum tree and the eucalyptus being one of those trees. However, the efforts of the founders of this city were noble. The efforts were well informed. In fact, beyond the blue gum tree, Nairobi had trees planted all over the place. When I was growing up, I remember back then the Dagoretti constituency would span all the way from Gigiri all the way to near Kikuyu. And this was the green side of the city. Beautiful tree cover. I remember going to school, James Gishuru Road used to have this beautiful canopy of trees, jacaranda trees. It was amazing when the full bloom was in season. Beautiful jacaranda, purple flowered trees lining James Gishuru's road all the way from Waiyaki Way to Dagoretti Corner. Beautiful trees. But what has happened, Madam Speaker? With the construction of roads, these trees are being felled. And in fact, no one even knows where the timber has been going. What has happened, as we are building the roads, we have cut out all the greenery. We have cut out all the trees. The effects, we are feeling them. The city is way hotter. The city is way drier. The city is less beautiful. What used to be the green city in the sun, Nairobi, is no more. Madam Speaker, what has happened to Nairobi has happened to almost every other urban center in this country and beyond. That today, even landmarks, because back then trees were beautiful landmarks. Around the area of Hurlingham, you remember, you would see beautiful trees. No one even knew where DOD was because DOD used to be well covered with trees. Today, buildings are exposed, homes are exposed in installments, and government buildings are exposed, but with it comes many other issues, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the import of this motion is to move this House to agree with me that we can put it in law that every contractor who has been contracted to build a road can actually plant trees at the end of their contract. It can even be put in law that the quantity of trees that need to be planted per kilometer. Madam Speaker, when I was moving this motion, I did say that we are building roads at the pace of 600 kilometers per annum. You can imagine 600 kilometers of road covered with a canopy of trees on both sides, how much afforestation we can be doing per year. Madam Speaker, roads can become a corridor for focus area in afforestation. Roadside trees will make a significant improvement, Madam Speaker, to the quality of roads and the quality of our environment, Madam Speaker. The mess that is caused by cutting a tree here can be felt as far downstream as the river and beyond. People do not know the concept of the oneness of existence, that today you can mess up a water catchment area in Karura and the effects will be felt in Katonzweni, that you can block a waterway in Kikuyu and the person who will suffer is somewhere in Sultan Hamud. The oneness of existence, Madam Speaker, that if we were to be our brothers' keepers, we can start by planting a tree. That today, planting one tree here is going to save a life somewhere far downstream than you can even imagine. Madam Speaker, it is the great man, Martin Luther King, who told us that we should be our brother's keeper. But if we should not be our brother's keeper, Martin Luther King tells us, if you cannot be your brother's keepers, at least don't be your brother's executor. Anyone cutting a tree is a brother or sister's executor, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, even the children in the gallery today will tell you the benefits of planting a tree. They will tell you that when you plant a tree, you are able to bind the soil with some organic matter. We have scientists in this chamber, Madam Speaker. I see the Honorable Professor Lillian Gogo. She will tell you that the benefits of planting a tree go beyond beautification. They go beyond the aesthetic properties of having a beautiful and green city. She will tell you that when you plant a tree, you are aiding and enhancing the infiltration of water retention in the soils, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, without being verbose, I'm just requesting this House and the honorable members who are here this afternoon to just agree with me that it would be in order for us as a House to be not only our brothers and our sisters' keeper, but the preservers of our environment, by proposing that we put it in law that every contractor who is awarded a contract, in the course of their contract, will not get paid the full payment until they have met the threshold of reforestation by planting back the trees that they have cut and by meeting the threshold that will be set by this new law of tree planting by contractors in road construction. Madam Speaker, with those very many remarks and a trip down history lane, I would like to move the motion on the afforestation and planting of roads along the roadsides and road reserves. And by moving it, I want to call upon the very esteemed ranking member, the Honorable Wanjiko Mohea, representing the people of Kipipiri, to second this motion. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The member for Kipipiri. Kindly pass the mic to the member for Kipipiri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. What Honorable KJ didn't say is that there can't be a better member to second this motion because the member speaking hails from Nyandarua County, the water catchment area from Aberdares, the only county which rains even in January. And Madam Speaker, again, why this is the best member to second this motion is the immediate Yala former member who comes from Arusha, the green city of East Africa. And those who have visited Arusha, you must be aware that Arusha is one of the most beautiful cities in our region, from the trees which are all over in the town. Honorable Speaker, climate change is real, and climate change is here catching up with us, and we only have to have ways, creativity, innovation, to find ways to curb climate change. And for this, I commend the member for coming up with this creative way of curbing climate change through afforestation, especially along the road, and particularly by making it low, because we cannot live without infrastructure. We are investing heavily in infrastructure. So the same infrastructure will carry together the afforestation, and in that case, we shall be harvesting two investments together. Honorable Speaker, we know the emission, the carbon emission from trucks, the fumes, which can only be controlled by the trees along the road. And to enhance the quality of air, this is the only very, very best approach. Personally, when I looked at this motion, I was hesitant because I didn't read through the motion. And the member told me, go and read the motion, and I really loved it. You can see the passion when he is explaining how Nairobi was beautiful, and I want to agree with him. I had two negative issues because I have seen, particularly near DOD, how the shades of some trees were creating confusion, making imaginary bumps, and almost causing accident. And I was limiting my thinking to that one line. But when I read this motion, I really must commend the member. Honorable Speaker, you know the cost of infrastructure is too high in this country, particularly on drainage, especially in counties like mine, some counties like Kericho, Rift Valley counties where there is heavy rains most of the seasons. These drainage, even if they are made very well, they also clog with water time and again. So afforestation along the road will also help us to maintain our drainage system because the water will be consumed by the trees. Honorable Speaker, we shall also reduce the noise pollution. I think, members, you may know that trees can also curb the noise. And you know, noise is also a climate factor because in the current life, we are so overwhelmed by the lifestyle. In fact, I can go ahead and say that this afforestation, we also bring health, wellness, particularly mental health care, because this is one of therapies. This is like a psychological therapy. When one is driving along a very green highway, and no one doesn't really care, everyone cares to see something beautiful, and you drive seeing very beautiful city or highway, it is also a therapy. So with the current overwhelmed lifestyle, you'll find yourself getting healed. So for mental health, and it is also a threat today. We are having many cases of mental health. This is one way of also facilitating this kind of free therapy, which is not going to be charged by anyone. Honorable Speaker, without many points to this, we may remember Nakuru Highway. Before the express road was constructed, from Nakuru Branket somewhere all the way to Nakuru town, how beautiful it was for those maybe who have not found Nairobi say without this express highway. So the many examples that we can give are not even enough. We can only imagine driving in a green city, in a green highway, getting that psychological therapy, very beautiful, and I think we cannot even deliberate more than supporting this motion, but putting a caution, because we have seen SGR, and though this contract is always having hide and seek game, but we know for sure there was some requirement of planting grass. It's a very, very, very big contract of a certain express, maybe from here to wherever. The members can ensure that what we have legislated on, like this tree planting, that contract is carrying that together. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I wish to say that I support this motion. When members will be traveling in this world, particularly the new members, deliberate and see if you can visit a country like Finland, which I happen to have visited. Also very beautiful because it is thousands and thousands of kilometers, which is green. And this is a country which also have a lot of GDP from afforestation. So I want to support, congratulate the member, and say, as the House, let us also come with other creative, innovative ways of curbing climate change, which is a serious threat to humankind today. Thank you.
Very well, Member for Kipipiri. Honorable members, before I proceed to propose the question, I would like to recognize the following schools seated in the public gallery. Molo Highway Secondary School from Molo constituency, Nakuru County. Socorro Girls Secondary from Molo constituency, Nakuru County. Arimi Secondary School from Molo constituency, Nakuru County. Goldmine Academy from Runyenjes constituency, Embu County. Honorable members, on my own behalf and that of the National Assembly, I would like to welcome to observe proceedings of the House. Honorable members, I would like now to propose a question, which is that, aware that Article 42 of the Constitution accords every person the right to a clean and healthy environment, and Article 69(1)(d) also mandates that the state to encourage public participation in the management, protection, and conservation of the environment. Further aware that deforestation is one of the main I would like to take that again. Further aware that deforestation is one of the main contributors to climate change, noting that Kenya has not been spared by the effects of global warming and climate change as a result of deforestation, amongst other aspects. Also aware that the road network in the country currently starts at approximately 177,800 kilometers, which is a development rate of 600 kilometers per annum. Deeply concerned that there has been persistent destruction of trees and vegetation along the road reserves and roadsides during road construction, leading to adverse effects on the ecosystem. Cognizant that studies have shown that the benefits accumulated from roadside tree planting include better soil formation due to shedding of dead leaves, increased water quality by reducing sediment flow, reduced erosion, road beautification, flood control, and the trees slow and absorb water runoff, wind breaking, providing important pollinator habitats, improving people's health, and protecting crops. Now, therefore, this House resolves that the government includes a component of tree planting in all road network designs, and also makes it possible for road contractors to replace any tree harvested during road construction upon completion of the project. Honorable members, I would like to give the first opportunity to the Honorable Kuria Kimani, MP for Molo constituency.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And from the onset, I would like to welcome our great future doctors, engineers, professors from the great constituency of Molo constituency, led by, yes, and members of Parliament. Thank you, Honorable Member. Led by Molo Highway Secondary School, Arimi Secondary School, and Socorro Girls Secondary School. Madam Speaker, in the view of trying to encourage education in my constituency, I've always endeavored to make sure we give an exposure trip to students in my constituency. And so this morning we went to Kenyatta University, and they all promised me that they're going to work very hard to make sure they join Kenyatta University and other institutions of higher learning and our TVTC across the country. Madam Speaker, I would like to congratulate the Honorable KJ Kiarie for coming up with such a very important motion during a time when we have a discussion about climate change. Madam Speaker, one Khalid Gibran said, "Trees are poems that the earth writes upon the sky." And Kuria Kimani would like to add, and when the trees write these beautiful poems to the sky becomes kind and gives us rains. Not too much rains as to destroy our land, but enough to grow our food. When we plant these trees, the sky rewards us by giving us wind. Wind that blows cool breezes to cool our brains, but not too strong as to destroy our homes. Madam Speaker, the debate now across the world is about climate change. And as an economist, Madam Speaker, I was trying to find out, is there by any chance a relationship between economic stability or economic growth and climate change? And Madam Speaker was able to establish that climate change is now considered one of the greatest threats of economic stability. And for starters, Madam Speaker, just to give an example, the heat waves, when temperatures are too high, the productivity of people reduce. That is why the productivity of people usually is the lowest between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. when the sun, when it's scorching sun. And remember, Madam Speaker, that labor is one of the factors of production. And therefore, if you're not productive because of the excess heat, then to reduce your productivity and therefore affect economic stability of any particular country across the world. And this is just a simple example. If I will go more technical, Madam Speaker, in my research, using data carried out in 174 countries, Matthew Kahn et al., that means and other authors, through an IMF working paper entitled Long-Term Macroeconomic Effects of Climate Change Across Country Analysis, showed using novel economic strategy proved that persistent changes in climate change has long negative effects on economic growth. So, Madam Speaker, this is a study that has been done by a combination of economists and environmentalists that showed actually that change in climate growth statistically has negative impacts on economic growth. Increase in average global temperatures, Madam Speaker, at around 0.04% per annum reduces world's GDP by 7.22%. So we're talking about that increase in temperature leading to a decrease in global GDP. Direct connection. And to even show it further, that countries that do not have mitigation measures, so countries that do not deliberately put up measures to stop this negative climate change, the impact was seen to be double. So therefore, Madam Speaker, if we do not deal with this elephant in the world, not just in our country, on climate change, and the easiest way and the most logical way is to plant trees. But Madam Speaker, why are we planting these trees? And it's at a time when we are competing, land is competing against many other economic activities, be it housing, one of the agendas of Kenya Kwanza government, be it farming for food, because that's not tree planting. So in a space where we are competing against this land as one of the factors of production, and we have a lot of land in our highways, then this motion by Honorable KJ cannot come in at any more particular handy time than right now. So I hope and pray that this Honorable House approves this motion, and not just approves it, that we are going to have in every contract of building a road in this country. And as I'm looking forward to completion of the Njoro Molo road, Madam Speaker, I'm hoping that we'll have passed this motion so that the contractor doing the road, as soon as he completes doing the road, can start planting trees across that highway. And when this is done in an organized way, because, Madam Speaker, one of the other challenges someone might put up in planting trees along the highways is how that affects visibility of drivers along the roads. But with proper planning, there are some trees that don't grow so tall. There are some, for example, we're going through corners, we don't have to plant those trees across those corners. And so if done properly, we will have trees on our highways. We are going to mitigate against the negative effects of climate change, and then we are going to achieve a better tree cover. And after all, Madam Speaker, once these trees mature, then they become a source of income and a source of raw materials, for example, for our construction and for affordable housing agenda, Madam Speaker. I would like even to add, in as much as we are planting trees, I want to add more value to this motion by saying, let us plant fruit trees also as part of those trees. It would be, imagine how good it would be if you walk along the highway and there are trees and there are fruit trees, and you just find a mango fall, and then you can just munch it, and it can cool down your temperatures. So that will even help us mitigate against the issues of drought that we are facing in this country, Madam Speaker. As I do that, I hope that the students who joined us here today, that once you go back to Aremi Secondary School, once you go back to Socorro Girls Secondary School, once you go back to Molo Highway Secondary School, we are going to see an improvement in the number of trees that we are going to plant in those trees. I look forward, and I will donate those trees for you. I will donate fruit trees so that in the next few years, those that join that school in a few years to come will have better shades to sit on even when they are revising for their exams. And when they get hungry, they can just pluck some trees and enjoy their afternoon. With that, I thank you, Madam Speaker, and really congratulate the Honorable KJ for this very timely motion. Thank you, Mr. Madam Speaker.
Very well, member for Molo. The Honorable Member for Rangwe Constituency, Honorable Lillian Gogo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Madam Speaker. I appreciate and celebrate you. I congratulate you for getting into the Speaker's panel to work together with the Honorable Papa Wetangula. Kindly guide our assembly well. I also want to take this honorable chance, Honorable Speaker, to appreciate our students in the House. We were once students. We sat in seats like you, and we have been like you. The future of Kenya is with you, and we thank you for coming to see what is happening at the National Assembly. We appreciate you and hope that one of you, 2 or 3 or 10, or most of you will get to Parliament. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, allow me to appreciate my colleague and friend, the Honorable KJ, because this is a man who is very magnanimous with his thinking process to the extent that he looks at the future Kenya. I think by virtue of his age, his advantage to want to have and live Kenya in a place that is better than how he found it, especially when he considers matter that is environment. About the motion, I rise to support it on the basis that anything that adds life to this planet is something that is worth supporting. Why should I talk about this? I should think, Honorable Speaker, that trees planted along any roadside or highway has a calming effect. You want to get out of the busy city or within the city, and you would hear birds humming. The hummingbirds would calm you off your stress. And we realize that in the generation that we are living in, Honorable Speaker, we live in a very, very stressed generation. I think this would be a very, very, very good way of looking at people even just walking along 10 kilometers under a shade and exercising and getting good health. If you do a road, plant trees. And better still, it has been proposed that we could have some of them as fruit trees. Pluck a mango, chew, walk for another 5 kilometers. And this is the Kenya that we want. And even on this same platform, as I contribute on this matter. I want to implore the sitting president, President Ruto, that he should come up with a day for Kenya where we have a walking day, to the extent that Kenyans can just walk along the roadside, no motorists driving that day, so that we can exercise and become a healthy nation. Most of our young people, Honorable Speaker, are engaged in having tree nurseries. They have tree nurseries, and they literally beg, they don't have where to sell their ware. This would be a very good way of empowering our young people, Honorable Speaker, because they will get a place where they can sell their, the seedlings that they have planted from their nurseries. Having said that, someone has talked about Finland. Indeed, it is a beautiful country, but we want to have our version of Kenya and Finland, where people can come and see the beauty of nature. Nature in planted trees, planted in an organized manner, planted in a way that is anchored in law, planted in a way that it is supervised, it is monitored, it is evaluated, and then we see the result of this kind of a legislation. On that, I want to support Honorable Kiare with the motion that is proposed on the floor of the House. Oh, the beautiful Nakuru. I've lived in Nakuru for more than 30 years, Honorable Speaker, and I heard somebody made mention of the trees that were along the highway as you got into Nakuru and as you got out of Nakuru. And this happened in the time that I was living and staying there. I am telling you, Honorable Speaker, Nakuru people cried when the trees went down. And even then they have made an effort to plant things like that look like trees, but they can never be what Nakuru was. If we were to have that kind of, I envisage a situation where this is done and in the long term, 20, 30 years, and we have that kind of a picture along our highways, as proposed by the Honorable KJ, I think Kenya would be a beautiful place to live in. I want to also talk about probably regulating the kind of trees that are planted if this motion finds its way through. Well, of course, we have the taproot system, the hardroot system. The kind of root system of trees that is planted may also be a burden on the road that has been constructed. So all this should be taken into account as we legislate on this matter, so that once we do it, then it comes and comes to last. Another matter that I want to weigh in, Honorable Speaker, is that we want to mitigate on issues of drought. We want to mitigate on issues of calming the environment. There are, of course, most roads, they are on places where also humans live. And there would be catchment of dust, and then I think this would be a very good way of helping the homes and the construction systems that are around these roads. Why not beautify Kenya, Honorable Speaker? Why not make Kenya a very, very beautiful city? Why not make interconnecting sub-counties connected with trees and roads? I think this would really make a very, very, very beautiful Kenya. The Honorable KJ, we have to continue with this. We have to make it different. I rise to support this motion, Honorable Speaker, and thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you. I thank you.
Thank you. Now, the Honorable Member for Njoro, Honorable Kadhambi Chepkwony.
Please, I'm here. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity for me to contribute to the motion which has been brought by Mheshimiwa KJ in relation with the planting of trees, even when the contractors are doing roads. Madam Speaker, allow me to support the motion and comment on some few issues. The destruction of forests in this country, Madam Speaker, the destruction of most of the forests we have seen in this country, it has also caused, there has been a reduction of quality and the quantity of water. Madam Speaker, I want to support KJ on that motion in relation with the serious matter of climate change. I think it has become the talk, the global talk. It is the high time, Madam Speaker, that we, all of us, walked the talk now. This is the high time for each one of us to take an action, because the truth is, the climate change has affected all of us. We cannot forget the point of drought, the famine in this country, the food insecurity in this country. Right now, Madam Speaker, it is good we say that the destruction of the forest in this country has also affected the rainfall cycle in this country. And it reminds me of our late Wangari, when she was telling us our own actions might affect us in the future. And she even emphasized that the nature does not forgive. Because of the destruction of our nature itself, it is now affecting us. But we wish to support KJ by saying we have to take an action so that we can save our future generations, because currently we are so much affected. On that point, as I support, it will be also the biggest responsibility for the Ministry of Environment to make sure that the right agencies are supported financially in this country. Like the Kenya Forest Research Institute. That is one of the institutes which must be supported by the Environment Ministry. Why am I saying that, Madam Speaker? It is because they have researchers who are going to assist us national-wise to know the kind of species of trees which must be planted, which specific areas. Therefore, Madam Speaker, when we take action, and the first action, as Mheshimiwa KJ is saying, and I support that because I also had a related motion which also might be coming. It was in relation with tree planting, but in another different way, where I was proposing we can also be serious on this matter so that we can also have a national tree planting day. And not only that we are saying the contractors can plant trees, we can also make it more better, because as we are here members of Parliament, in the Constitution, we still champion for it through the issues of saying that we want 10% forest cover. As we are here, Madam Speaker, it is we rather be very honest with one another, that we have not even achieved 6% of the forest cover in this country. Therefore, we seriously support that idea, and we request the Minister of Environment to support the respective agencies, including Kenya Water Towers, so that they can also see how we can support in whichever capacity. Madam Speaker, I was just adding the point of saying that because of lack of trees, which naturally have a scientific influence on the rainfall cycle, it has affected the food production in this country. Therefore, I think when we take an action of planting trees and increasing the forest cover in this country, it will be also another point to make sure that we have better rainfall, and we also have enough rainfall to enable farmers to have good production of food in relation to reduce the insecurity of food in this country. Madam Speaker, therefore, my point was just to support the idea of Mheshimiwa KJ. KJ, we support this, and also support the concept of Mheshimiwa Gogo, who has said, let us do it in the best way so that in our country we can be a model country in this Africa continent. And also we should also support the point of the President recently, when he said he is going to make also the Directorate of the Council of which was put in the Climate Change Act at least be active. With that and with everyone being included and taking a specific action, I think we have time that we can make this country more better. I think also to support that point, we should go beyond and make sure that even when these contractors are making these roads, when they are destroying these roads, when they are destroying our trees in the process of making roads, I think when trees are being planted by the youths, it will be another way also for creation of jobs to our youth. Therefore, thank you very much for giving me this time, Madam Speaker, and congrats for being a speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kadambi. The Honorable Florence Jematia seems to be absent. The Honorable Member for Siaya County, Honorable Catherine Ombaka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to correct my name. It's not Catherine Ombaka. It is Christine Ombaka.
Honorable Member, let me take that again.
It is
the Honorable Member for Siaya County, Honorable Christine Ombaka. You may proceed.
Thank you for getting it right. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. It's a wonderful thing to talk about environmental conservation. It's really great to talk about environmental protection, tree planting, all which give us life. As Mheshimiwa KJ presented this bill, I saw a picture of trees all over the highway. And I've seen that kind of picture actually in a painting, which is really beautiful, really, really awesome. I can imagine that what I saw as a picture can be translated into what is life. A highway with trees all over, on the way that the road meanders. That's how the trees also meander along that particular road. If I remember my English very well, my teacher told me such a road with trees all over is called a boulevard. A boulevard is beautiful. I think that is what this bill is all about. Creating roads, constructing roads with boulevards, with trees all over. It's so calming. It's so fresh that you just want to walk and enjoy the trees. I think we lack that today. The description he presented made me feel that we have lost so much in terms of environmental protection. We should have thought of this long time ago. If you look at the street of Nairobi, between Nairobi and the airport, you don't see trees. What you see is concrete of a highway.
There are days when you think, oh, leo na deserve, so order a Glovo. Days when plans inachelewa, what if you order a Glovo? Or days when you can't control everything. Or yes, because on Glovo you can order anything you want. Glovo, you order, we get it.
sitting, no FOMO. Para. She said, don't you keep me waiting, make me proud like